how to be profitable in 2024.
Marketing has really changed.
That there is a path to a career within our practices.
Change your website geared more towards them.
The multi-generational communication conflicts.
People aren't coming to you because you're an in-network provider. They're coming to you because they want a beautiful smile.
This is truly what's on the mind of orthodontists.
You know, having that high level of service.
This day and age, it's all about differentiating yourself.
So happy to be here.
All right. So Cathy, thank you for joining us today to record this.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. It's nice to see you.
Oh, it's always great to see you.
We're not in Fort Lauderdale today in the hot sun eating Greek. That was such a good Greek restaurant.
Thank you for that suggestion. That was awesome.
It's my favorite Greek restaurant in Fort Lauderdale. So I'm glad you guys enjoyed it.
Well, and not only was the company good, but the weather really beat Omaha weather in the winter. So
right, especially in December. Absolutely.
Especially December. Yeah. Yeah. What, in your opinion, do you think is on the mind of every orthodontist or every orthodontic practice that they don't really have a solution for?
Well, Davin, you really are giving me a tough question right off on the bat there. I know you like that. Since I specialize in the financial part of practices, I'm going to go out on the limb and say fees. Insurance companies and getting insurance companies to get with the current times and on the fees that these doctors are wanting to charge and to negotiate. Let them negotiate better rates and more in line with the current fees and not fees from 8 years ago. What I'm seeing is Delta Dental won't renegotiate. You know, it's whatever they say goes, which I think is not good, but again, that's what they do. But some of them have, such low fees that it's ridiculous to even be in network with them. I get that newer doctors just getting started feel the need to be in network. But when I talk to newer doctors, I ask them, why do you feel you need to be in network? Why do you feel that? Because it used to be back in the day that you were an in-network provider, so you would be in the company's book. So when they got their insurance from their employer, they would go in the book and they would find the in-network providers. Well, that's no longer. They don't do that anymore. You could be up on the website because everything's done through the internet. But really, when you stop and think about it, how many patients really come to you because you're an in-network provider for orthodontics? Now, this is for orthodontics, which is totally different because they all talk to their friends and family and they say, hey, who do you use? So that's how you get your referral. So I'm kind of a believer of not being an in-network provider for these companies, because if you're not an in-network provider, you can set your own fee. They don't dictate to you what fee that you can charge. And listen, these doctors, they need to show the value of why they're charging $7,000, $7,500. Because that's what they're worth, and that's the treatment the client is getting. So they're telling you your fees are too high, and some of them are in the $3,800 range. That's not fair to these doctors. And it's really up to the TC to educate your patients on what all they will be receiving, showing the value of the treatment and the fees that are being presented. So that's kind of a long-winded, but with me being financial, that's what I'm seeing. I just get very frustrated and I feel the pain that these orthodontists are going through, where these insurance companies are telling them, well, you're an in-network provider, so this is all you're allowed to charge. It's not fair.
I wholly agree with that. I often tell people, I go into practices and see their fees sometimes, and it's like not much more than what, my parents paid for me to have braces 20 years ago or more. Oh gosh, more than that, more than 20 years ago. But
I won't tell you how long ago it was for me, but I will date myself. I had bands around every tooth.
Ah, okay. Yeah. I haven't seen that in a long time. But also on the fees, what percentage of the practices would you say you go into and their fees are like so low, so antiquated? I mean, is it pretty prevalent?
It really depends on the area. I mean, that's what you have to look at. It really depends on the area and where you're at, and what the competition is. Docs that have a lot of orthodontists in their towns, they want to keep their fee close to theirs because they feel if they raise them for what they really want, they won't get any business. I get so happy when I go into a client's office and I see they're getting over $6,800 for their fee. And I love it. They're not in network providers. They do accept assignment on the insurance plans. That tickles me to death. I get so happy to see that because they're the ones that are saying, hey, I'm not going to be an in-network provider because I'm not going to have somebody dictate to me what I can charge.
I guess I didn't really know the history behind why people were in network providers to be in the book. And you're right. I mean, people come to the orthodontist for some other reason, and then they ask, well, do you take my insurance? It's not the other way around.
No, and you'll get when they call for the new patient appointment, they'll say, sometimes it's right off the bat. I have Cigna insurance. Are you a provider? So it's how you train your front desk to answer that question. If you're not a provider, you got to answer that, the right way to entice them to still come in. Because here's 9 out of 10 people that want to know if you're an in-network provider is what they're really wanting to know is if you will accept their insurance payments. Because most of the people out there, they don't understand what it is to be an in-network provider. That an orthodontist is in-network, they can only charge, let's use the $4,800 range. They don't know that. They're really wanting to know, will you take my assignment of benefits? Will you let the insurance company pay you? And if they answer correctly that, yes, we take all insurance assignments. It's not lying. They do. You got to get them in the door. And it used to be on some of the plans, and I've seen over the past probably 18 months, 24 months, when you're verifying the insurance. And I do tell clients, please have your staff use a form, call, don't get it off the portal, don't get it by fax, and ask the proper questions. And when you ask, is this an in-network or out-of-network? Do they have in-network or out-of-network? It used to be if they had in-network that they had a lifetime max of $1,500 or $2,000. If they used an out-of-network provider, maybe that $1,500 went to $1,000, or the $2,000 went to $1,500. There was always about a $500 difference. Well, I've seen over about the last almost 2 years that that's not happening anymore. That they're still saying whether you're in network or out of network, their lifetime benefits are still X, Y, and Z, which is fine at that point. Because if a patient caught on to if I used an in-network provider, I would have gotten an extra $500. So I see some docs that will discount them $500 for not being on their plan. And I'm like, no, don't do that.
Do you hear from doctors? So I think you mentioned earlier that some doctors will say, well, I don't want to raise my fees because I don't want to lose patients. In reality, have you actually seen any orthodontists that have lost patients because of fees, or is it something else?
Something else. It's usually something else. They lose them if it's something else in the middle of treatment. Will they lose them and not even start? Yeah. And that's the ones that are really focused on the money. But if your TC has the proper verbiage to explain the value of what they're getting and why you're charging that amount, if that TC has the proper training, she'll close the deal.
I wholeheartedly agree with that as well. You kind of set up the fees and the insurance and kind of as this thing that they don't have a solution for. So if we want to lean into this obstacle of fees, what is the solution?
And this is, again, in my opinion, and there have been other people that I've talked to, is stop being an in-network provider. Band together as a group or an organization to get these insurance companies to stop this craziness of telling you the low fees that you can charge. Look, the insurance companies and that stopped paying for phase 1. Remember, what was that in 2022? They stopped paying for phase 1. And now they're paying the phase 1 as limited treatment. They're dictating what can happen. And if people would fight back and get the AAO to fight back with them, that maybe this would make things better for practices. They, the insurance companies, need to value the orthodontist and look and see what's really being done and the value that patients are getting for a specialty, for somebody who's gone to school a lot longer than a dentist, and everything they're getting. When you look at it, you're partnering with them for almost 3 years. Most cases are 18 to 24 months, and then most retainers are 12 months. You almost had a 36 months partnership. For $6,000, when you present it as this is really almost for 36 months, then it's totally different. And then that way the insurance companies will maybe let patients, not that they can have higher lifetime maximums, because that is set by the employers. Whatever plan the employer purchased is what sets it. And a lot of patients don't understand that. And I have seen in offices where they feel they think, or they've been told they have insurance for orthodontics and they're going to pay for it. So when they find out that they only have 1,000, 1,500 or 2,000, they're like, no, my insurance pays it all. And then we have to educate them on why it doesn't pay it all, because they're being told by their HR department or somebody else they work with that, oh, we have insurance, go get your kids orthodontist. It's, going to pay for everything. And then we look like the bad guy because we're telling them, no, you've only got $1,500 max. That will come off our $5,500 fee. And we will set up a payment plan for your $4,000. So that's kind of educating the patient and the parent. But, we got to find a way to get these insurance companies, when it comes time to renegotiate, to raise the fee for the entire industry. I was talking to a client yesterday, and he talked to some of his colleagues that are outside the 15-mile radius from where his offices are. He's got 3. And he said that they were able to renegotiate with a couple of the major insurance companies for a fee of $7,000. That is the first. And I refer a lot to insurance credentialing because they do all the renegotiating. And I know she gets, top dollar. So I'm going to put a call in to her today and give her the area that I'm talking about and see if that's something that's really happening. I mean, I don't know why this friend of his would not tell the truth because they're not in competition with each other. But if, this one guy's already been able to renegotiate a $7,000 fee, then okay, he obviously sees the issue too. And, and that's what really needs to happen. Everybody needs to band together to make this happen for the industry.
In these renegotiations, and this is me, I don't know this side of the business very well. So is this something that individual doctors can call the insurance companies or how does that work? Because it seems to me, it seems like if I was an orthodontist, I would think, well, that seems like a pretty insurmountable thing. I'm pretty busy over here running my practice. And even to try to get the AAO to get on board seems great. But like, Cathy, that seems like a lot of work for me, one orthodontist, right? So help me and everybody else understand kind of how they can actually achieve this, because it seems like they could.
Usually when guys are getting your office set up, they reach out to the insurance companies and say, hey, I want to be an in-network provider for you. They send them a whole packet over, 10 pages to fill out and everything they have to give. Well, there is a company out there that does it for you. You pay them, they get the packet to you. And this is another thing. When you try to do it on your own, you have to call Aetna, Cigna, Delta, MetLife, Guardian. You have to physically call all of them. And it is very time consuming. And you get the runaround and you'll fill the paperwork out and you'll wait the 15 to 20 days and you'll call back and, oh, we never got the paperwork. And, there's always a story. Pay somebody to do it for you. And I always say, why can't each insurance company have the same paperwork? But unfortunately, they all have different packets to fill out, which is ridiculous. You fill it out and then she goes in and starts negotiating the rates. Well, what she can do is she has a way to see what competition in your area, 15 to 20 mile radius, 5 to 10, what they're getting as a negotiated fee already. So when she goes to negotiate for you, she's not going to say to Cigna, hey, I know Dr. Smith 2 blocks over is getting $5,200 and you're trying to give my client $4,800. I'm not going to negotiate for less. So she's going to negotiate for it to be $5,200 or more. So that's why you need somebody to do it for you. And you can renegotiate about every 2 years, but you cannot renegotiate Delta Dental. They will not renegotiate fees. They are set in their ways. You get what they say you're going to get, unfortunately. So I say, if you want to be an in-network provider, and again, I don't know why you really want to, because you're not going to be in the book. Yeah, you might be on the website, but people aren't coming to you because you're an in-network provider. They're coming to you because they want a beautiful smile. It's up to your staff at that point to make that happen and sell the treatment once you're out of the room from the exam, hopefully within 5 minutes.
That's a good little add-in right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, just come in, shake the hand, tell them their smile is going to be great, and
leave it up to Sally to close the deal.
That's
So
great.
yeah,
Well,
there is a company, and there's several companies out there. I like this one particular one that's out of West Palm Beach. I've worked with her for years. I actually worked with her when I was back in 2000 when I worked for a practice in Boca. She was the rep that I was using for doctors there. So yeah, use somebody. Let them do it for you. Let them fight the battle. You don't have time to do that. Your staff does not have time to do that either. And it is a battle.
it sounds like it'd be money well spent if they actually are able to renegotiate the rates for you. So that's good because that's, I mean, for me, that's something I didn't know about. So that's really helpful. Thank you. I want to take a minute right now and just have you, because we've so much great information already. Tell us a little bit about, I mean, I know who you are, but tell everybody who you are, what you're doing, what you're up to in your own world, in your own business.
Sure. Well, I'm Cathy Jugovic. I own Cathy Jugovic Orthodontic Consultant Company. I've been doing consulting for almost 9 years. I'm under a new name. I used to be one of the co-founders and co-owners of Embrace Your Practice Consulting. And at the first of the year, we decided to shut down Embrace Your Practice and go our separate ways. So I have opened my own under my name because my name was pretty well known out there in the industry and doing everything but clinical. I do every type of training, office manager, financial coordinator, front desk, treatment coordinator, overall customer service, proper verbiage and systems. I make sure you have the protocol for your software for whatever I'm training on. I offer remote support for report cleanup. I do, insurance AR. We actually call every insurance company on your report for the patients that are past due. We review every patient's insurance ledger to make sure it's set up properly. And then I get all that cleaned up, and then I would come in and train somebody to keep it clean. Some of these are really out of whack, and it takes us, 4 or 5 weeks to get it cleaned up, and then we'll go in and do a training. We do status code cleanup. You're going to find that your isn't changing the status codes properly. I was just telling you earlier, I was working with somebody that they wanted me to run their status codes and make sure everything was hunky-dory. So when I ran the new patient status code, I said, "Do you have 751 patients scheduled for a new patient exam?" And he's like, "No." And I said, "Well, you have that many in the new patient status code." So right there tells me those that no show aren't getting taken care of, those that maybe left in pending, weren't switched to pending or went into recall. So we go through every single patient. We read the treatment card. We figure out what they're supposed to be in. We view the extended treatment time report. If I can tell they've been debanded and the staff didn't put in the deband date, we go and put in the deband date. We change it to retention. Usually when I run an extended treatment time report, I'll find anywhere from 13% to maybe 40% of active patients that are in extended treatment. But when I get done with it, I probably get a good 20 to 50 patients off of it that have been debanded or transferred out or dismissed for whatever reason that the staff never went in and ended the treatment to get them out of that report. I do a lot of that financial status code cleanup remotely as well.
Well, and that's so important because, I mean, in any business, especially on the status code cleanup side, I mean, if you open up that report and there's 750 patients, I mean, not all, some of them started or some of them whatever, but some of them also didn't get followed up with that probably would have started.
Yeah, the pending, those that all went into pending right there told me they weren't getting followed up on.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not saying that the staff is lazy at doing it. 10 to 1, they haven't been trained to do it. Your TC hasn't been trained. Maybe you're on your 4th TC in your career, and maybe the TC before that didn't say, "Hey, and when a new patient leaves, you got to change the status code." They just haven't been trained properly. And that's what's really important, is making sure your staff is trained properly. But again, I always tell them that the ones that should be changing the status code is your TC and your financial coordinator or your front desk, because your status code on when they start goes in and the number of months that treatment is. So let's say a clinical person, because I had a doctor say, "Well, can you train my clinical staff? Since they're in there more than the front desk is, can you train them to change the status code?" I said, "I can train them, but they're going to have to understand that they got to go back and look at the date they started, because if I'm taking their new patient status code today and I'm going to change it to active because the person that put the contract in forgot to put active in, and I'm going to change it to active And let's say this is 8 months after they started. Well, practice management software is going to take that active status code as of today. So if they're not going back and saying, oh, wow, Sally started back in November of 2023. Now I change it to active. Now I got to change the start date to that date. And then I got to put in the months of 18 or 24 and then save it. So it's not that easy. And let's face it, clinical staff, they're turning those chairs around, for them to stop and have to review everything. So that's why I recommend no clinical staff change the status code. It be your financial coordinator, your front desk, and your TC. At that point, those should be the only ones changing it.
Well, that's worth a consultation right there, Cathy.
Okay, great.
There we go. Hey, so if people wanted to find out more about you or meet with you or just look into you a little bit, where would they go?
Cathy Jugovic, Orthodontic Consultant, is my website. My first name is spelled with a C. My last name is very difficult to spell. It's Jugov as in Victor, IC. And I just put my phone number out there. I love people to call me or text me, 954-383-3566. My email is cjugovic@gmail.com. Or better yet, Devin, they can just reach out to you. How about that?
Well, and when we post this, we'll put your information in the post too. So
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you. I appreciate
Well,
it. I'm on
awesome.
Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. You can pretty much find me anywhere.
I see you on the socials every now and
I know. I'm a great marketing person. I'm really, really happy with my marketing person.
then. That's awesome. Well, so I want to keep us going because we've got a couple more questions I want to make sure we get covered. And
Okay.
I know everybody who's listening, we want this to be something you can listen to when you're super busy and you're just kind of in between patients, maybe even. But all right, Cathy. So kind of as an industry overview here, and you can bring it down to the practice level if you can, but where are practices, where are they vulnerable? If you look out kind of in the next few months or the next year?
I'm going to come back to say we pretty much have covered it already in the above, the other two questions, that letting insurance companies dictate the in-network fees and not fighting back. That's where if you start saying to these, hey, if I can't have a higher fee because my UCR is and you're only allowing 4,800, I'm going to come off the plan. And when the insurance companies or when employers don't have, in-network doctors working underneath, they're the ones that are going to hurt. So I just think it should be a big fight. And that's kind of where I'm at on that, because that's what frustrates me so much when I'm working with these doctors, that these companies are not giving them the fees that they deserve. Because the one thing, because maybe there's docs out there saying, oh, well, we'll just upcharge for the Invisalign. Well, you can't. If you're a network provider, you can't upcharge for all your other stuff.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got to take the fight to the insurance companies and we got to stand up for the fees and kind of plan either individually
Yes.
or as an industry. Great.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's great. And I think just getting people to think about it, even on the other side of things, we talked about where they're vulnerable. Where are they positioned, practices or the industry? Where do you see they're positioned for success?
Well, I think those that are charging the fees that they know they're worth and not being in-network providers and making sure that their TC shows the value of what the patient will be receiving during their treatment, the treatment time, and their retainer phase. Because a lot of treatment coordinators don't pull that retention phase in. And I've seen, some docs, they do the 3-month checkup and then that's it. They say, hey, you've got another 3 months or another 9 months. Call us if you need us, not scheduling them. Yes, the 3 months, but not scheduling the 6-month and the 12-month out. Don't take up, that chair time for that. But making sure that your TC understands where you're coming from. And it's got to be a TC that understands numbers and the value of something and selling it the proper way before they even turn the fee schedule, the fee payment option sheet around to them. Because I've seen TCs, they make everybody 100% comfortable before they even start talking about the fee. Because that way, and I don't like seeing that doctors will go, if it's a 24-month case, that they'll go out 30 months or 36 months, don't extend your plan that way. I don't like seeing that. Some doctors do, and they don't have an issue with it. Well, if that's the case, then make sure they, on the D-band, that they sign a letter stating they know they still have, 10 more payments left. and, that dad doesn't stop the automatic payment, because now Sally's got her braces off. Dad says, oh, okay, we can stop the automatic payment. And he stops it. And, so just have them sign a D-band letter that they know that they still have a balance. And, come back to answer the question is making sure that they're charging the fee that they know they're worth. That I think some of those guys are doing it, and I'm very happy for them. And I love it. I love seeing it when I'm working their AR report and seeing the fees that they're getting.
Yeah. Well, and I would even say, those offices are also probably providing an incredible experience. They're focusing on other things for that patient other than finances. And so people really see, like you're talking about, seeing the value. They come in and they experience the value. And so then now, even if they're a couple $100 more, or $1,000 more than someone down the street, well, that's, oh, okay. I'm willing to pay over that because I like it here. I love that. I don't want to guess, but I think I might know where you're going to go on the kind of the wrap up question here. So based on all of the stuff we talked about, if you were going to tell a doctor or a practice, hey, what are the 1 to 3 things that they can walk in and do?
Share the value of your fees, charge what you're worth, and don't be an in-network provider.
Love it. All right. No, I don't think any other conversation is needed on that. All right. So our wrap-up question, I'm asking everybody, because I believe that the story that the ultimately the part of the doctors are entering into that story for that patient. And, in your line of work, what you're doing with the practice is you're entering into the story of that practice and helping them tell a better story, even if it's on the financial side or the report side. So in that line of thinking, who is your favorite, or what, doesn't have to be a person, what or who is your favorite villain, and what or who is your favorite hero?
Oh my goodness. Villain. Shows like that, or movies where there's villains, because I don't like those type of shows. My favorite hero, and it's not going to be anybody some people will know, but I think my 3 boys are my heroes. I look back at them, and one of them sent me a beautiful text this morning about how much he appreciates me. And I told him, I said, you and your brothers by hands down are the best. Yes, my husband and I raised them, but it takes a village to raise kids. And they're my heroes. My 2 older ones are firemen and love what they do. And they're on shift 24 hours. They're off shift 48. And when they're off shift at 48, they teach at the fire academy. So, they're my heroes. I have seen some of the things that they've, had to endure. And my youngest is in construction, but knock on wood, he's entering the fire industry in September, start his EMT and fire, and get in the line of work of his brothers, because he sees that that's a really good thing to be in. And he can be in his construction company on the weekends or on his days off, because most firemen have another job. So on his days off, he can still do his construction. So he's really seen what his brothers have done as well. So I'm going to say my heroes are my 3 boys.
I love it. Literally real life heroes, firemen. That's great. Well, and I would say every good story has a hero and a villain. So in line of your heroes, I would say maybe fire is the villain, huh?
Yeah, let's use that. Let's use,
Well, Cathy, thanks for taking time out of your day. I know you're busy. You're on the road all the time. Thanks for taking these few minutes to connect with us and share your wisdom with everybody that's listening.
Thank you so much for having me. And I'm glad I'm inside in the warm, because I think it was actually snowing last night where I'm at. So it didn't stay on the ground, but I think it's about 18 degrees out right now. So I'll stay inside in the warm right now.
Spring is just around the corner. It's almost here.
I know.
Well, thank you so much, and I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.